I got to a point where I was at a pretty massive low in my life. And I didn't really know what to do with myself. I just knew that I couldn't keep living in the way that I was living.
Hey, it's Heather Chauvin, wife, mother of 3 boys, former social worker, breadwinner, recovering hustler, and stage 4 cancer survivor. I'm not a fan of that term, by the way. Beyond all of these titles and labels, I'm a human being, just like you, attempting to navigate it all while feeling good. My goal on this podcast is to show you that you can live an energized, sustainable life, both at home and in your work. It doesn't matter if you stay at home full-time, if you work from home, you're a CEO, a successful business owner, or trying to find some inspiration. On this show, I attempt to keep it real with stories, interviews, and random thoughts. This is not a business or career podcast, and it's not a parenting podcast. It's both and so much more. You will laugh. You may even cry, and you may even get a little frustrated with the truth you've been hiding from yourself. I believe all human behavior is a language, whether it's through your child's behavior, your health, or a relationship. And when we learn to listen instead of react, we begin to understand what it truly means to feel alive and in control. It's time to put your big girl pants on and find your brave. Let's go. Do you understand the priceless value of surrounding yourself with the like-minded people? Do you know the capacity of what your soul can become when you are surrounded with women and men and game changers who are only willing to show you how to become your best self? This is the power of surrounding yourself with the right community. Ladies, I'm so excited to present today's interview with you with Alexis Dean. She's the founder of the Dovetail Community, and she has quite the story to tell you. I had Alexis on the show because I wanted to demonstrate the power of somebody who is courageous enough to create what she truly needs for herself. Alexis was in a very successful career, but inside felt empty in one particular area of her life, which was surrounding herself with like-minded women. I get so many women who ask me, where do I start? What do I do? I feel isolated and alone. Or even clients of mine who join my mastery coaching program and say, I love the online community that you have built, Heather, but I want this in person. And my answer is always, what's stopping you from creating it? Too often we overcomplicate every inch of our lives, whether it's a running club or a book club, or you just want to get together and have a glass of wine. Whatever you want your life to look like, you can create it. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast because the interview dives deep into community and Alexis's journey on how she created this amazing dovetail. But I want you to remember that this is easy. It only takes a few brave, courageous action steps for you to start generating the community that you truly desire. I remember one of my first memories of creating community was when I was a teenage mother and I went on the local Craigslist, the Canadian version, which is called, what the heck is it called? Kijiji, that's what it's called. And I put up an ad to start a teen mom group. Now, back then, I wasn't the leader that I am today. I was desperate. I wanted to get out of my own head, and I needed to find a sense of hope and security. And I found some amazing friends in that group, and some of us still talk to this day. All because I decided to create what I need. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, and if you do, please send me a message on Instagram. You can find me at Heather Chauvin. Now let's dive Okay, Miss Alexis Dean, I am so excited to have this conversation with you. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to have this conversation with you too.
So I asked you to come on the podcast because I wanted to have a conversation with you about community. And I know you may have thought, like, why would Heather want me on the Mom is in Control podcast when I have no children? Did you think? Yet. But
yeah.
There's a reason why, and it goes very much in alignment with the conversation we're going to have today. I believe all women, fur babies, no fur babies, children, humans, children, no human children, we are natural nurturers. And we are all mothering and nurturing in some sense. And it doesn't matter the lifestyle, but when you, especially Alexis, you have this beautiful community around you, and I'm sure sometimes you feel like you have all these children that you're managing or people, but you have a very nurturing energy around you, and you have made such an impact in my personal and professional life. And I will rave about you in a moment. But before we do that, I just want a little bit of a backstory. Like, who are you and how did you become this woman that is the go-to when people want to be surrounded with amazing community?
Thank you. So how would I describe myself for your audience? As you said, I'm not a mom yet, but I've always been a nurturer. And when I came out of school, I actually went to school to become a teacher. And I became a teacher because I love kids and I love nurturing and I love taking care of people. And in many ways, I love hosting. And that sort of evolved into a career as a teacher trainer and then a professional facilitator. And then I ended up in the corporate world because I felt like people did need community and support in the corporate world because we're so many people that were just so unhappy in their day-to-day lives. And I saw that I could use the skills that I had from a career in facilitation and education to support them. And then that naturally evolved into starting my own corporate training business. And then that evolved into me looking around thinking, okay, I have this business and yet I'm somehow so alone in my own working world. And I didn't have a lot of amazing women entrepreneurs around me. And I knew that I could get so much farther, faster, and have such a more enriching, fulfilling experience as an entrepreneur if I surrounded myself with the right people. So that's how I ended up where I am right now.
In a nutshell, right?
In a nutshell.
Don't you think people are like, tell me who you are in a nutshell? You're like, where do you want me to start?
I know.
So oftentimes when a lot of women will come into my world and they will say, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I have such a great online community, but I want this in my real life and I don't know how to create it. So, we can talk about the how-to, but I want you to, I just love the vulnerability of it. So I want to back up a little bit, maybe tell a little of your personal story of what was that why for you? Like, yes, you wanted community around you, but what keeps you going? Like, what was the ache and the pull behind it?
Yeah. I mean, I think entrepreneurship can be desperately lonely. I think that it's put on a pedestal that people really idealize this beautiful lifestyle and so much freedom and travel and woo, everything's so beautiful. And look at the bills just rolling in. Not that kind of bills.
I know. I'm like, yeah.
Not the dollar bills, but the actual bills rolling in.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just found myself in this place where I was very, very alone and I was looking for connection. And I would try going to a lot of events, and we all know there are so many networking events and they're pretty photo ops and you feel really good about yourself for, a minute or two while you're there. And maybe you make a connection and you're like, yeah, we should get together. But then you never actually do, which then leaves you feeling even more isolated than before. And I got involved in another community that was mostly men. And, I love being around the guys, but again, I went to their event and I came away from it just feeling even more isolated. Like there hadn't just been that depth of connection there. And I got to a point where I was at a pretty massive low in my life. And I didn't really know what to do with myself. I just knew that I couldn't keep living in the way that I was living. And I feel like it almost sounds cliche now when you talk to entrepreneurs that have had like a level of burnout or, just so many challenges that people have gone through. And I think it's just such a shame that we drive ourselves into that space. But that's where I got myself. I was growing my other business and I was doing all the things on the surface that you're supposed to be doing. I was like speaking more and I was getting paid more and I was growing my team and, everything was looking so wonderful and perfect on the outside. And my family and friends were like, wow, things are really going well for you. And meanwhile, like every day was getting darker and darker and harder for me. And I hit a bit of a breaking point and, it wasn't like I snapped my fingers and was like, okay, now everything is perfect because I'm going to build this community of women. It was like, I need to get some serious help or things are not going to go on for me in this way. So I sought out good therapy and, did a lot of personal work. And again, that's not, snap your fingers and go to therapy and you're going to be cured of this massive depression and the hole that you're in. But over a period of months, I was able to kind of get some traction on my mental health and, doing that work and getting some support and really consistent support. Like I'm talking weekly therapy, daily calls at times, like it was not an easy road, but getting into a place where I was more mentally healthy and recognizing what I really needed to get myself out of that space. And it was to continue going to therapy and continue getting mental health support, but also to build a community of people that could relate to that. And also that I really wanted to help prevent other women from finding themselves in that hole. Because I do think it's just like such a tragedy that so many entrepreneurs probably that you've had on your show and that you and I know have put themselves into these holes, have dug themselves these ruts because it's just kind of what was expected almost. You just hustle until you can't hustle anymore. You drive yourself harder and harder and harder. And yeah, that's where you end up.
What I find interesting is I don't solely work with entrepreneurs. So there's just women in general who are like, help me. I don't want this. Like I need to find fulfillment, contentment, or I have a big vision and I feel like the crazy person because people around me are like, just, clock in, clock out, like do what you're supposed to do. And like when you're in the online space or you're seeking support, when a lot of the communities are built for entrepreneurs. And the reason why I have learned to discover, and I'm sure you can attest to this, is because an entrepreneur is typically somebody who has said, I'm done with the mediocre. Like, corporate is killing me. And then they jump into the space and go, holy fuck, this is extremely isolating. Like I need community. And you have the creative control to create what you desire. Now, if you're in your day-to-day 9 to 5, and like I'm totally stereotyping, but there's so many different types of communities, right? You're in your 9 to 5, you're like, not this, like I need something more. There's communities with fitness, with food, if you like mom and tot baby stuff. So we're talking about community as a whole, right? Like what that looks like. How you kind of mentioned at the beginning around, the importance of surrounding yourself with the right like-minded people. And I'm totally going to jump in and tell you my experience around what it was like to jump into your world and your community. But I'm curious, like, what was that first instinct or what was that first initial action step that you took to say, I need to surround myself with the right people? Like we know that, but how do we actually do it?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people like that. I've heard from a lot of women, especially who come into our community who are like, I went to other things and I just couldn't find the group that was the right fit for me. So I don't do this kind of thing anymore. So they actually come into our community kind of like doubting and they're like, oh, this is like my last ditch effort to find a place for myself. And then if, this doesn't work, then it's just not for me. And for me, I think I hit that spot too. And so I was like, first of all, what do I really need and how am I going to get there? And I knew that I needed something totally different from what I'd been part of. So I kind of looked at that and I was like, what is the opposite of that? What is going to be a place where I feel welcome, where I feel safe, where I feel that there's, a level of trust in the group around me and, kind of like almost like, we're not super woo at Dovetail, but almost like a sanctuary, like a place where you can come and let down your hair and and just feel this really strong sense of welcome. And so I started with, how do I create that sense of welcome, and how do I create the thing that I really want to feel? So it's all about, how do I want to feel? How do I make that an experience for other people too? And that was sort of my origin, like thinking about, and for anybody that's wanting to build a community wherever they are in whatever industry, or, if you're working corporate, but you want to gather, some people around, maybe from your neighborhood, thinking about, okay, how do I want to feel with this group? What is the experience that I want to create for them? And starting with that, and then looking at, okay, well, what are the type of people that are going to help me to feel that way, that I can make feel that way? So for me, it was like, okay, I wanted to gather around women entrepreneurs. I wanted the type of women entrepreneurs who were not just about, not just the influencer life, because we do have influencers in our community, but like who maybe had a little more, that I could see might have a little more depth to them, that were the kind of women that would be okay with, coming out to summer camp and not, having everything look glossy, picture perfect. And so I looked for those people first. And I started with a small group of them that I sort of like eyed up. I saw them online, or I saw them, speaking, or I saw them at different things, or I asked friends, like, who are the people that are kind of like this? And so I started with a small group that I got introduced to. I think it was like 5 women. And then I kind of in my brain called them like my pillars. Like, those are like our pillar ladies, because they're the type of person that I know if we can grow from this group of women, then they're going to attract more women like that. So that's sort of the first few steps, at least.
I love that, because what I'm hearing you say is I actively created what I desired. I didn't simply just say, who are the women around me? It's not self-serving. It's an equal exchange of value, right? Who do I want to surround myself with? And those women, who do I think it, would benefit them to be around? Like, who do they want to be around as well? And you actively sought them out, which is something I'm always reflecting back to you. I'm like, you're seeking these people out. You're not waiting for them to come to you. So my question is, seeking these people out and saying, hey, I have an opportunity for you. What's typically been the feedback? And these are people that you're like, I want to be your friend. Like, I want to know how you got this awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, like, especially those first few conversations when people are like, who are you? Like, I had no public profile. I didn't even have Instagram at the time, I don't think. Like, I was, really, it was not a public brand at all. People didn't even know about my business and whatever. Like, we grew in the corporate world. That's totally different. So yeah, it was a little awkward. And I did have some people reach out to me too, who were like, I don't know about this. But my way to approach them was, I think that, it kind of comes back to like my leadership style, which is like servant leadership, which is, what do they need that I can help them with? And not necessarily just saying like, how can I support you, or how can I help you? Because not everybody responds to that really well. But I would try to get on a phone call with them. And especially if they're introduced through someone, people were willing to get at least on a short phone call, because they're like, who is this person and what's she doing? And maybe this is a good thing for me. Or some of them were like, oh, maybe it's a speaking opportunity. So I may have bait and switched people, but not fully intentionally.
Just being honest. You're like, well, maybe you won't get a speaking opportunity now, but it might be later.
This might be better. Yes. Or this might be better. And that's always the thing. It's like this or something better, right? There's always going to be an amazing opportunity from whatever comes. And so I'd get them on the phone and I would try to just get them talking about their lives and their businesses and kind of what they're working on and what's keeping them up at night. And I still do that on all my calls. It's just try to find out what people are going through. And for the women that I felt like from the beginning were probably going to be the right fit, a lot of them had similar challenges. A lot of people were going through the same kind of stuff, where like their old school friends were amazing, but they might not necessarily totally be able to relate to what they're doing with their lives or where they're at. And, their partner, amazing as well, but couldn't always turn to their partner to talk about some of the struggles they were having because they were so business related, and you don't always want to take your work home. And so the more I could get them opening up about the things that they were working on in their lives, the more I could say, like, I think we might have a solution here. And I think that this is, a way we can bring together other people who are like you, that are maybe from the other side of the country or from the States. And like, would you be interested in that? And that was really where I started. Like, at first, I didn't even know this was going to be a business. At first, I was just like, would you potentially be interested in coming to a weekend where we got all these amazing women like you together. And people were like, yeah, like, this sounds amazing, because I knew that I was answering to their needs and serving them with where they were at. And then as I started to grow it and build it again, I designed the experience around what their needs were and what their challenges were and what they saw that was missing from other events that they were going to or other experiences they were having. And so always keeping them at the forefront of it and their needs, and trying to find them people that they were going to connect with. So, yeah.
I love this. How did you deal with the, discomfort or the fear of rejection, or, how did you get up the courage to have those phone calls, like take those phone calls?
It's still like, there's still days when I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have calls with people today, and they've never heard of me, and I've never really heard of them before I started stalking them online. And there are days when I'm a little hesitant, and I have had harsh experiences. I have had people who have, given me the virtual smack in the face or on the phone, been like kind of shut me down or said, I'm not interested in this at all. Like, why, we don't need women's things, and you're setting women back, and blah, blah. Like, I've had these conversations that are treacherous,
Wow.
And I've had some intense times, and it's, sometimes it's thickening my skin, which has been tough because I'm a pretty sensitive, nurturing person. But it's also recognizing that, maybe it's not for them right now, and maybe it will be at some point. And everybody's had their own experiences. And so if they do have a negative response, it could be because they've gone through something in the past, or they're currently in a space where maybe they've had a negative interaction with a group of women or another woman, and they don't feel that support of the sisterhood. And so I try to see it as like being empathetic and recognizing, okay, they might sound harsh, or maybe this isn't, I'm not getting the response I would hope for, but it's just because they're coming from a certain place in their life right now. It doesn't mean that they hate me or that they totally necessarily hate what I'm doing, even if they come across as negative about it. It just means that this isn't for them right now. And I've actually had women where I talked to them like 2 years ago, and they were like, oh no, what is this thing? Like, how could this possibly not just turn into like a pitch fest? And I know women's events and and they've been negative about it. And then they end up coming and they're like, this is the best experience of my life. So
it's typically what we resist the most, which is what we need. And I will hear people say that as well. Like, oh my gosh, they're projecting their past experiences on current, which holds us back, right? It just holds up that block to allow you to move through what you truly desire. So now, are you like 3, 4, 5 years in? How old is Dovetail?
We're like 2.5.
Really?
I know. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So this is amazing. Yeah. So the community that you've been able to create in 2.5 years, how has this benefited you on a personal level, like a soul level?
In so many ways. I think just waking up every day, it's going to sound woo, but I'm all for it. Waking up every day and knowing.
It's working. You're like, Heather, what is manifesting? I don't know. And I was like, Alexis,
yeah.
all the time. You do it all the time.
I believe in it now. Let's go with that. I do. I wake up every morning and I can feel, it's not like I live on my own. It's not like I'm surrounded by these ladies all the time, but I can feel their presence. And, when I send out an email and I see the response, or I jump in our Facebook groups and I see the connection and I see our ladies going on trips together. And it's just this feeling, this ongoing, constant feeling of being almost like, somebody described it like a hammock, but it's almost just like this, like really supportive foundation that I know that I can turn to so many women in this community, or the community at large, and say, here's what I'm working on. I would love your support. I would love your feedback, or, hey, here's what some of our ladies are working on. Who is able to help them with this? And I know that they're there for each other. And I have this ongoing feeling of love and support, and it's amazing. And I also just love, when I connect with women who haven't heard about us before, but are looking for this. And lately I've been connecting with a lot of women who are, I was telling you earlier, like that are in smaller towns or out of the major cities. And they're like, how do I connect with something like this? Like, nobody in my area really gets what I'm doing or really understands my life, or, and when I connect with them and they're like, oh my gosh, like, this is what I've been missing in my life. And I know this is going to be so supportive for me and so amazing. Like, there's really no feeling like that, like being able to support people like that.
I
It's
love that.
awesome.
What do you think you were missing previous to creating this? Like what do you think? Oh, I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, what do you think the cultural epidemic is, or the cultural belief that keeps us stuck and isolated?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think as women, and I think we've talked about this before, but a lot of us are afraid of groups of women because of bad experiences in our lives. I was bullied as a young girl. I had a woman, or well, it's funny, a female bully through grade school who's turned into an adult woman bully, which is really ironic. Like we were at a bachelorette party a couple of years ago, and she turned around and tried to use the same tactics she'd used through grade school. And I, had a really negative experience dealing with her. And as we're still part of a mutual group of friends, I still occasionally deal with her. And so I can relate to people's fear that this is going to be something that happens in any group of women. And I think that it really hinders our ability to open up to different types of experiences in different groups. And not every group of women is the same. And a lot of women grow beyond that bullying experience and are not catty and nasty and gossipy and all of the things that we're afraid of with women's groups.
I feel like we've lost our village, right? Like the whole how we are created to associate in groups and help each other and support each other. And somewhere along the lines, there's this isolation of support. And then, so when you're not living in alignment with how you were culturally designed, there's a part of you that is gone and it's not natural. But of course, excuse me, you put yourself in that group, you're like, not my people, not my people. So what I'm hearing you say is, oh my gosh, I'm going to cough 1 second.
It's okay.
What I'm hearing you say is that, like, don't give up, right? Find your people. And if you can't find your people, create your people, because I truly believe we all have the opportunity to create what we desire. That is how we're going to make an impact in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I think we used to be born into community and now we have to create our own.
So since I have you on here, I'm going to tell you how you've made an impact in my life through community. Okay? So you can just sit there and take it all in, Alexis.
All right, I'm here.
So when I was introduced to you by somebody that I previously connected with on stage. We connected through a talk that we did together. And she multiple times was like, you need to meet Alexis and her Dovetail community. You would love them, Heather. And I thought, yeah. I'm so involved in online female communities, and I've, invested a lot in coaching and masterminding. So I was familiar with this. And a lot of those groups are very strategy based and like, here, let's share strategies. But I'm all about vulnerability, and it's like, okay, fuck all that shit. Like who's struggling here to like get out of bed, or who needs to find some balance? Like I want to know real people, right? Beyond, I don't care how much money you make. So you and I had a conversation. First conversation, just like you said, you were intrigued by what am I doing? And it was more of like an invitation, like, are you a good fit for the community? And it came from an authentic place. It wasn't, can you afford this? It was great. I think your energy, where you're at, what you're doing is a good fit. So I came to one of your events, loved it. First of all, I felt like I think everyone goes through this, but it's like you're a little fish in a big pond at first, right? You're like, you're trying to figure your way out, like, how do I fit in here? But instantly I felt non-judged. I mean, everyone was in like camp clothes. I didn't go to camp the first one, but everyone's in like cabin clothes. Like, people didn't care what they look like. And it was everyone just genuinely, I had no idea what anyone did in the group. No idea. Intentionally, because you're getting to know the person first. And then if it comes up in conversation about, your biggest challenge or whatever, because there was always time for that, it was like, ooh, I got someone for you. So it was very forward thinking, or very, what did you call it? Not servant-based, value-based. Like, how can I be of service to you? How can I give you value? So since I've gone to 2 of your events, I'm headed to another one. Since attending and being a part of your community, I have gotten clients just from people who later follow me, like never, and I didn't even realize they were in the same group until I'm like, oh yeah, hey, they didn't even know what I did until they looked me up after the fact, after the event. Received a connection for publishing my book, receiving a tremendous amount of advice, support, and feedback on professional things that I would have had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for. Even just a quick like, hey, do you have a resource for this? Do you have a software for this? Do you have this? Do you have that? Or what do you guys do for this? Like made really, really good connections with friends. I can't, and a whole bunch of things that I am missing. I cannot even tell you the value of the work that you do, Alexis. I cannot, like, all of this research that you're doing, all of these phone calls, all of this, like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? What am I, I don't want to get up. I don't want to like have these uncomfortable conversations today. Make a bigger impact for the people that you are bringing together. And I just, one, I wanted to say thank you, but two, you are a perfect representation of true leadership to me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to have to listen to this later. Thank you.
And also the diversity of women that you attract, right? They're not always in the same industry. Some are even in the middle. They're like, I came from this industry. I'm kind of going through a midlife crisis or something, trying to figure out who I am, what I'm doing. And diversity is so key too. And I think you do that very well.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely something that I push for, and, bringing together, women of every ethnicity and every background and every type of business, from construction to healthcare to, just about everything under the sun, is really, really important. We can learn so much from people outside of our own world. And that's like another really important part of community, is it doesn't have to be homogenous. Just because we call it community doesn't mean that everyone looks the same, talks the same, is the same. So if you're thinking about building community wherever you are and whatever your world is, it doesn't have to be with people who are just like you. You can learn so much and gain so much from people that are completely different in so many ways.
Purposely. So you have something, it's in August, right? Base camp.
It's September, and this year we called it Camp Dovetail. It's been called Dovetail Base Camp last year, but we switched it because it really is at camp. So it's September 24th to 27th, and Heather was there last year, and I believe it's going to be there again this year, working on the dates. And it is a 4-day weekend. We added an extra night this year because everyone said they wanted more time. I would do a full week if I could, but I think people, especially because we have a lot of moms, it's really hard to get away for a full week. And summer is tough because the kids are off, and September is tough. So we go to the end of September. We take 4 days. We have 4 days of incredible workshops. You choose the workshops that you want to attend based on what you're working on. So everything from, oh my gosh, like such a diversity of workshops. Operations, it's all designed towards women entrepreneurs. So operations and leadership and cycle syncing and parenting and just everything in between. And then also all the camp activities. So I don't know if you did the ropes course last year. We had a zip line and a ropes course, and sailing and stand-up paddleboarding. And it's really just an incredible weekend of bringing together these phenomenal women entrepreneurs from across North America to learn and grow together and build deep connections. And we do a lot to make sure that happens too.
Yeah, it is a beast of an event for sure. I'm the type of person that can self-pace. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, I want all the things. But yeah. I did a lot of camp activities that I wouldn't normally haven't done in the past, or just silly. Well, not silly, but I would just get in the canoe and just go for a paddle, just try to, calm down my nervous system and learn. Yeah. But I would also attend workshops that I would have otherwise know nothing about. So not even things that were a current challenge for me, but things that I just was so fascinated by. And I would sit there and they're like, do you have any questions? I'd be like, nope. Like funding. I know nothing about funding, like capital funding. I know nothing. I don't even think I'm saying it correctly, but I would just sit there in awe of these women who, you know, this was their genre and this was their life. And I'm like, ladies, I have no fucking clue what you're talking about, but I just want you to know that I am in awe of what you've been able to create, but also knowing, you know, that was a seed that was planted for me. And then all of a sudden, you know, because of manifesting, Alexis, we have these things that I would meet somebody else. And I'm like, you know what? You need to connect with this person because I met them at camp and I have no fucking clue what you're talking about, but I feel like she might be able to help you.
Oh yeah. Kat Rizzi and Danielle Graham. I mean, Kat, who led that session, is the woman who's raised the most money out of any woman business owner in Canada. Which is pretty massive.
Never know by having a general conversation with her. It's like, hey, what's up? Yeah. So cool. Yeah. So cool.
Out paddling a canoe with her. Like you know, you wouldn't know until you got to know her as a human being and heard her start to speak. And then all of a sudden you have this friend who has the ability to help you if you ever need funding, or if you have a friend who needs funding, she's the person to talk to. So yeah.
And I think I wasn't even aware of her business until then. So then now I'm going to be using her business for an event that I'm hosting. And it's like, oh, I didn't know this was a resource that was available. And this is the impact of, I don't even want to call it networking, but this is the impact of community and priceless. Like you wouldn't even be able to put a price point on something like this. And you don't have to be the expert in everything, but when we're outsourcing, but when we're looking to say, how can I be of service to you? And this reciprocity of giving and receiving, it is a thriving ecosystem.
Yeah, completely. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your positivity about camp and about that experience. And
I just love your community. I've brought in clients there. I've brought in my team members there. I'm like, listen, you're going to walk away with some juju of sorts. So yeah. And there's just, I can't even tell you. And watching you, I'm just going to rave about you for about an hour. So you can just sit there and take it. But Alexis, even just you in general have been such an inspiration to me, knowing that, you know, there's like attracts like, and there's women out there in the world that truly just want to give. And the receiving part is just the natural evolution of it. There's no strings attached. I watched your Speaker Slam talk that was on Goldcast or is on Goldcast currently. What was the title of that?
Okay. So honestly, they asked me that morning and I was like, I think it's not the crocodiles, but if you just search my name in Goldcast, it comes up.
Okay. They did that to me too. So even after that, I'm like, what is Speaker Slam? How do I do Speaker Slam? And then I started looking into it. So I'm just telling you, you know, you and a few of the ladies in your community, I'm like, I didn't know this was the thing. I want to know what it is. How do I make this happen? So again, women helping women rise. So by you being you're inspiring others around you without even, you know, pulling me along.
Thank you. And likewise to you too. So
we have a special offer or gift for people if they are coming to Dovetail Camp?
Camp Dovetail. Okay, so it's campdovetail.ca because we're based in Canada, although we do have lots of Americans. And if you're American, it is great value for you to travel to Canada right now. So come on up to Canada. I know you have a big listenership in the States as well. So yeah, Camp Dovetail, Dovetail is the word, .ca, and the promo code is MOM, all caps, so mom, for $100 off camp this year. So go check us out, campdovetail.ca, and if you're interested in coming, you can join right there on the website, and the promo code is mom.
Awesome. And I will be there this year.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Already purchased my ticket from last year. So anyone listening to this, you may see me at camp if you want to come hang out at camp. And such a great opportunity. And also, I think as you get closer to September, the price continues to increase.
It does, yes. So depending on when you release this, you're going to want to jump on our website and get your ticket sooner than later. We have 2 stages of early bird. One ends February 29th, and the other one is April. So jump on while we're still in the early birds.
What I love about it too is as a child, I did not grow up going to camp. So, a lot of parents, if your kids do go to camp, like this is a typical, very typical Canadian camp. So you are in this camp vibe, loving, it's like you're healing your inner child. You just feel like you're living vicariously through camp, like through your childhood. How many women do you expect to be there this year?
So this year we're expecting a few more. We're towards 200, but we do so much in smaller groups. Like because we have so many different workshops happening, you end up at a workshop with 15, 20 women max. And so it's a really nice intimate circle. And because we're in this beautiful site, whether it's indoors or outdoors, you're at a space by a fire, or you're like outside on a dock overlooking a beautiful lake. And so there are lots of opportunities for small group connection. And then also you're in a cabin group, and we do dinner seating. So there's always really nice, smaller, more intimate interaction, despite the fact that we have more women on site. So it's it's a beautiful group. I'm so excited about all the women that are already coming and registered. And we have some phenomenal workshop leaders again, and just so many good things happening. And although it's a camp, it's not camp food. We can attest to that. We do not want to be eating, camp food as adults. So we have it catered and can accommodate everybody's needs. But most of all, it's just really this incredible start to being part of a really beautiful community year round.
Making magic happen. So what else do you have going on besides camp and, summit? Like what's going on in your personal life? Like, let's just make this, public. Like what's Alexis doing for
manifesting this? Alexis is dating.
What?
I know. I am back
official. It's on the podcast.
It is. I mean, I'm starting to believe in this manifestation business. So I'm calling in the right man for me. And I'm also looking at potentially, relocating myself for part of the year. Nice. Because I'm beginning to be able to work from different places. With the other business, I have other people that can help run programs, and with Dovetail, I'm able to be in different locations. So I'm kind of looking at that too. So it doesn't have to be someone that is in Toronto.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, again, Alexis, I'm so excited and grateful for you. And thank you for sharing your wisdom today.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm thrilled. Woo. Yeah.